Welcome to the Nurture Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Denise Cagan, president of the DCA Virtual Business Support. At DCA, we believe in small businesses and the families they support. Learn more at dcavirtual.com. Are you running your business? Is your business running you? Cash flow statements, profit and loss, EBITDA, balance sheets, they seem to make my head spin a bit. Today's guest helps business owners make sense of the data so they can run their business and get off the hamster wheel. I'd like to welcome Ryan Kimler to the show today.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
So Ryan, tell me, I usually ask a little bit of personal stuff in our pre-call, but I didn't today. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So my background, I have a degree in accounting and finance. So numbers is definitely my thing, right? And went to Illinois State University, and now I live in the greater St. Louis area with my wife and two dogs. We have two Great Danes, so we love our big dogs. Yeah,
I'm a small dog person. I have a min pin.
Yeah. They're very lazy. So, they're easy to take care of. They sleep a lot. But they're also really enjoyable, fun time. So, and then love being in the outdoors, taking our dogs to the dog park. And then my wife and I, we also like to foster dogs. We work with a local shelter here that's a no-kill shelter. And we always get compliments that our Great Danes are well-trained and well-behaved. And so the shelter likes to send us Great Danes that they get. Usually they've been, mistreated or abused, right? And we really help get them back on their feet and, train them so that they can, go to a good home. And we really enjoy doing that. And our dogs really serve as an example for the dog that comes in so that, the foster dog knows how they should be acting and behaving. So we really enjoy doing that.
I love to hear this. I actually am recently joined a board for a small dog rescue, and they rescue senior dogs. As I noted before the show, my min pin's 15 years old. So I got her from that particular rescue, and it's a small local rescue. So I love to hear what you're doing. I love to see people that are helping those that can't help themselves, and animals that wind up in shelters certainly cannot help themselves. So this is awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I got the pleasure to listen to another podcast that you were on, and some of the things really, just made me, brought some questions out, to be honest with you. I think that host asked you, what keeps you awake at night? And I put that on my list to ask you. So what does keep you awake at night?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that keeps me awake at night is just business owners that don't have the privilege of, working with a financial guide or someone that's in their corner, really helping them understand their business, helping them have a growing and more profitable business, right? I know that there's a lot of business owners out there that, they probably end up having a bookkeeper who keeps the books and makes the reports. And then they probably end up having a CPA, right, that helps them file their taxes and gives them tax advice. And then there's a huge gap in the middle, right? Where, they're kind of stuck looking at the reports themselves, and they're trying to figure out what's working in their business and what's not. And there's no guidance or scoreboard or anything to help them really sift through all of the data. And so that's one of the things that really keeps me up at night, for sure.
And do you find that the clients you work with, the same things keeping them up at nights?
Yes. So, clients, they don't wake up in the middle of the night saying, man, I wish I had cleaner books, right? They wake up in the middle of the night thinking about, what do I need to do tomorrow, right, to make my business better? And there's thousands of things as a business owner that you could be doing every day, right? How do you know which activities are really making a positive impact to your business and helping you grow? And I think that's what keeps a lot of business owners up at night. And, am I going to have enough cash to make payroll in 2 weeks, right? Or those kind of things, for sure. Before I started working with my clients, kept them up at night.
Okay. So that brings me back to my intro, cash flow statements. Honestly, until I went through the Goldman Sachs program, I didn't even have a clue there was something called a cash flow statement. And I've been in business at that point 18 years with two different businesses.
Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah. So to give a high level overview, they're really supposed to highlight the cash that moves in and out of your business that's not easy to find in your financial statements. So for example, let's say as a business owner, you went out and got a small business loan, right? During this last pandemic, during the COVID pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm. So
when you're paying that loan back, and let's just make it easy, right? Let's say you're paying back $500 a month for the entire year of 2020. Let's just call it 2022. So the job of the cash flow statement, if you're looking at it for the year of 2022, is really to document that you've paid that loan back, right? And the cash flow that went out the door to pay that loan, right? Which would be $6,000, $500 times the 12 months. But if you look at the balance sheet, the only thing the balance sheet's going to show you is the balance of the loan. So the only other way to really find how much cash you put towards that loan would be to run a balance sheet at the end of December and go back and run one in January and then subtract the two if there wasn't a cash flow statement, right? And so that's really the job of the cash flow statement. Whether you're looking at it over a month period, over a 3-month period, or over a 12-month period, it's to document those changes in cash flow and the cash that left the business that is not easy to find just by looking at financial statements.
Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, the month, how you spend that money is documented on your P&L.
Well, for operating costs, yes.
Yes. Okay.
However, when you're talking about a loan, right? Loan sits on the balance sheet and is something that you owe as a business, right? It's a liability, right? So what you owe another person. And some business owners don't understand this either. Like when you're paying back the principal of a loan, that does not come out of your net income, right? So just to dive into that a little bit more and explain that, you could have, hypothetically speaking, a net income, like a positive income. Let's say you made $500 over the course of the year. And then let's say you paid back a loan for $6,000. You would have negative cash flow from that, right? So you could have a business that made a positive net income, but because of the debt that they're servicing, they could have negative cash flow, which means you've either got to take on more debt or the business owner has to put in that money and cover that themselves.
Thank you. That made my head stop spinning just a bit. That was a simple enough explanation. So that's your superpower. You take all this complex number and where they show up and you make it easy for business owners to understand what's happening.
I certainly try. Yes. They really are complex statements. And unfortunately, for the most part, they've really been built for compliance, right? They've been built for the IRS and SEC and the regulatory agencies. And they've not really been built to help a business owner, to help them say, hey, right here, circle this number in red, right? This is the number that needs to change for you to go do better in your business, right? Like that report doesn't exist, So
besides helping people understand these reports that really weren't built for us to understand, yes. I understand that you also consult in that CFO capacity to help people become more profitable.
Yes, that is the majority of the work that I do today. Personally, I do have a small team that handles like some accounting work, but yes, personally, I handle, clients in a CFO capacity. And really, my goal there, for the business owners out there that don't know what a CFO is or what a CFO does, that's not really uncommon. Most people, when they think of a CFO, they think Apple, Google, right? The really big companies like, oh, they need a CFO because they're hundreds of millions of dollars in size and they have a lot more things going on financially. But actually, my job as a CFO is really to analyze and track revenue, profit, and cash flow, analyze the strengths and weaknesses. So what's working, what's not, and then propose corrective actions out of those strengths and weaknesses that I find and take those to the CEO. And so even if you have a business, that's doing $500,000 a year, you can still benefit from having a CFO on your team. And, the CFO's job is really to be strategic, look at the numbers in a strategic way. And if you need an additional resource, really help you find that resource and bring that resource in.
So can you give me an example, clearly without identifying the client, of a suggestion you've made for someone to optimize that strategic push to become more profitable?
Yep, sure. Absolutely. So one of the things that I really looked at with a law firm that I was working with was productivity in their payroll and how are they producing compared to the revenue that was being brought in. And what I really found was that there was a weakness in productivity. There was at least one attorney that really wasn't producing in the way that they should, right? Really wasn't billing the number of hours that they should have. And so, one of my recommendations working with the client was that, we need to go and look into the people that you're paying and what they're producing. And what really came out of that was, we found an associate attorney that was just not being as productive as they should have been, not billing as many hours as they should have been. And more importantly, not billing the right hours, right? Some of their time that they were billing ended up getting written off. And so we really just had to, put them on a billable hours goal, right? And get them on track and get them more productive. And, we took the attorney from, I think it was about a 1.8 return on payroll up to like a 3.5 return on payroll.
That's incredible.
So, when that happens, those revenue dollars have a direct impact and go right to the bottom line, right? Because the payroll amount that we paid that attorney didn't change, but with the amount of productivity and the amount of revenue changing, that hit the bottom line directly.
So basically what you did was you baselined it, put the metrics and KPIs in place with the goal of what they were to hit. Did you incorporate any like bonus structure or anything else in this?
We did. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yes, the hours that they exceeded and went over their target, we paid out a percentage of those hours that after the firm collected. And so that, yes, we built a bonus structure into that.
I love that. So you're increasing the productivity of someone on the team and rewarding them for doing that, but also increasing the profitability of the company overall.
Yep, absolutely.
That is awesome. So I did read in your bio that you have an outside CFO guide. Tell me about that just a little bit.
Yeah. So coming up here in 2023, I'm going to be coming out with a book actually that talks about having a outside CFO guide in your business, right? And so when I say outside CFO, I'm talking about, a part-time CFO that's not hired in-house, right? So this is really relevant for the smaller businesses that are doing, $400,000 or $500,000 a year, all the way up to $4 or $5 million. Going out and hiring a CFO full-time probably costs in the range of $150,000 to $200,000 a year, plus benefits and taxes. Like for $1 million business, that's just not doable and not, to be profitable. And so my book is going to talk about how hiring an outside CFO guide, kind of like myself, that you can bring in on a part-time basis, get the help and the tools and the tricks that a CFO would bring to the table, part-time, at a fraction of the cost of what it would be to have a full-time guide. And my guide is going to talk about not only some of the reasons for doing it, but also kind of how the DAC has been stacked against smaller business owners a little bit. And then also what to look for, when you're going out and looking for a guide like that.
So, and I know that this is what they typically term as a fractional CFO.
So you have to be careful there. So let me jump in here. Let me jump in here a minute. So this will be really good for your audience. So I don't call myself a fractional CFO.
I did notice that.
Yes. For the purpose of, there are some fractional CFOs out there that all they do is they work on a contract basis and they come into the business, they solve a problem, and then once that problem is solved, they're gone and their contract ends, right? So for example, let's say we've got a business owner that's trying to go to a bank and get a working line of credit or, working loan. And maybe the bank says, okay, in order for us to give that to you, we need an analysis on your previous financials. We also need you to, we need a 5-year forecast and a 5-year business plan. Maybe that's what the bank says. And so a fractional CFO would come into the business. They could, do the analysis, create the forecast, create the business plan, right? They would complete that. They would hand it to the business owner, say, here you go. This is what you asked me to do. And then they would be gone. And so the way that I work with business owners is completely different in the sense that, we work more on an ongoing basis, right? I'm a firm believer in, once you solve one problem, you have several more that kind of come up. And if you hire a fractional CFO, they get your one problem solved, and then you don't have any help after that, and they're gone, right? Unless you're going to hire them on another contract. And so That's also why I like to say that I am a guide, right? We work together long-term, month over month, so that I can help you with whatever challenge or problem that you have that comes up.
Okay. I like that. So, but it sounds like you, more than just challenges and problems, you're being proactive as well.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And so, yeah, part of my job as, my client's CFO is, I'll build them out a scoreboard, but the important thing is that I'm forecasting, where the business is headed, where we're going. And so, if there is a red flag, if there is a number that's not on track, like maybe the business is not bringing in enough leads for the number of sales that it wants to have, or maybe, their conversion rate of those leads is not where it needs to be. We're going to find that early on before it really becomes a problem, so that we can put an action plan in place and have to-dos and action items to really get that problem and get that number changed around so that it is working in favor of the business.
Like that. I like that. So where is the break point? So I know, when you're a small business owner first starting up, particularly a micro business that might not be funded, you're doing everything yourself, and then you grow and your first year might be 100K and then you might go 250. Where's the break point where it makes sense to bring a part-time CFO in?
Yeah. So I typically see somewhere around the 500,000, $500,000 a year mark. I can definitely start working with clients. There are some exceptions to that, right? If you're in the $400,000 range and you're growing pretty well, or, maybe you've got some good profit margins, right? Then we can definitely work with that. But that's usually the range that I see that happens, that it really makes sense. As a business owner, your first hire kind of in your accounting and finance department. I mean, obviously you have to get your taxes taken care of, but I don't really consider that a hire. Kind of happens once a year, and they're not working with you ongoing, right? And, you can probably get your taxes filed for, I don't know, $1,000, call it $1,000. I don't know what it is. Don't take my word for that.
For me.
I don't know. I don't know what taxes are, but that's not really I don't consider that like a hire. So your first hire as a business owner should really be a bookkeeper, right? And to me, like, as soon as you get to six figures, as soon as you get to $100,000, you should hire a part-time bookkeeper, because, a lot of times they work remotely now. You can find bookkeepers that are specialists in your industry. It frees up so much of your time as a business owner when your background is not in accounting. It's just so worth it. It's an investment that's really worth it.
Oh yeah. I only had to mess up QuickBooks in my tax return once for me to not do it myself.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
wound up owing the IRS a few $1,000s. And it was
Ouch.
a very honest mistake, but it was a
Yes.
mistake on my part. And once it was pointed out, it's like, okay. Never have I
Yes.
tried to do my own books or tax returns again since then.
Yes. Absolutely. And yeah, so that's really kind of the phasing in is, get a bookkeeper when you're at six figures, and then CFO, part-time CFO outside, probably 400,000 or 500,000 and growing. Yep.
Okay. So since we're talking about money, what would somebody need to budget for that? If they're at that level, roughly?
Yep. So depending on the complexity of the business, obviously some things there can really make a difference in pricing. But I would say, you can really hire an outside CFO, $1,500 a month up to maybe $3,000 or $4,000 as the business grows and it gets larger, right? A business that's doing, $2 million in business is going to be more than $1,500, right? You're probably looking more in the $3,000 range, something like that. But if you're a business that's doing $500,000 a year, probably about $1,500 a month or $18,000 a year.
All right. And that's good to know. So I know this might be a little bit outside of your purview, but I was thinking about this, as you're suggesting profit to, ways for profitability. I know a lot of small businesses have gone in the direction of, hey, well, I do this and I consult, and to conserve my time and to make it so I can be less hands-on, they've been creating courses. Okay.
Yep.
I've seen a super influx of this, and I'm like, are people really consuming all of this content? But what do you see? Do you work with companies that do that? And what do you see?
Yeah, so I do have a couple of consultant clients that kind of work a model similar to that, right? What I see works best is if there's some sort of like basic level course And then if there's active ongoing meetings, right, that's training on the course that's been created, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's just a course, from what I've seen, you
Mm-hmm.
might have a good number of business owners take it, but then how many are really implementing? And what do you do with it after you've done taking it, right?
Yeah.
And what's the next for business owners? What's the next sale from there?
Mm-hmm.
If you sell a course on the front end and then you have people take it, then you're always reselling, right? Versus if you have an ongoing program, that you have an ongoing coaching or an ongoing meetings, and that could be a couple times a week, that could be once a week, could be once every other week, right? But if you have ongoing meetings and you have a flat fee for that program, then I think the members that watch the course that you created are going to have a higher implementation rate, and they're obviously they're going to continue working with you, so that generates more revenue as well.
I am so glad to hear you say that, because I'm in process right now of running through a course I created with an active client, getting feedback from it. And one of the things that is not currently in my so-called beta test is those ongoing meetings. And I was like, I think I need to offer that piece, but I'm actually not doing it as just courses online, because mainly because of my preference for learning style. I prefer
Sure.
interacting with an instructor.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And some people are absolutely that way. And that kind of continuing ongoing learning, really takes care of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I like how you said that also, thinking about what the next step is. So I'm assuming that this is something that you also guide your clients on. You're doing this product service, and what's the next step from there? Can we McDonald's supersize it?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the CFO service that I offer is more of a long-term plan, right? We talk about, I build out a 5-year forecast, but we talk about even longer term than that, right? As a business owner, what is your exit strategy going to end up being, right? Are you going to sell your
Nice.
business one day, right? Are you going to, and usually if you're going to sell your business, it ends up being an employee sale. That's how most businesses sell. But what is the plan? What is the goal? What is the dream? What are the next steps, right? In every one of our action plans that I create, and that could be around sales, it could be around, expenses, it could be around a portion of cash flow. That's the majority of the time that the business owner and I spend on our calls, is we're talking about next steps. We're talking about what's the next best thing to do, to really move the business forward. And then, as I said, in our right now we're getting into annual planning time, right? We're looking at 2023 and have been for the last month or two. What's the long-term goal? What are the things that you really want to be doing in your business? What are the things you don't want to be doing? How many vacations do you expect to take a year with your family, right? All of those kinds of things we're absolutely talking about.
Perfect. So you're there to benchmark where they're at, plan for growth, and then plan for exit. You've covered the gamut.
Yes, I certainly try. Yeah. My job is really to close, the big gap of, where you are today versus where you want to be, and how do we get you there? And it's completely tied to, for me, I love that it's completely tied to the numbers and the finance side of things, right? Because the work that I do with my clients really has a number tied to it, right? When we're fixing a number, or we're creating an objective and we're getting next steps done, there's a net income or a net cash flow number that's directly tied to that activity, right? That we're improving net income by $20,000, right? And so closing those gaps and helping small businesses be more profitable is really where my passion is.
Perfect. So how can our listeners find you after the show?
Best place to find me is netprofitcfo.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, just Ryan Kimler, Kimler. And then if you would like to email me, ryan@netprofitcfo.com. If you go to my website, upper right-hand corner, there's a link to my calendar as well to schedule a free 30-minute profit acceleration session.
Perfect. We'll make sure all of that information is also in our show notes. Ryan, you have been a wealth of information, pun intended.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for joining me for today's Nurture Small Business podcast, where the focus is on business growth, technology, and people strategies to help your business thrive. At DCA Virtual Business Support, our focus is making your business operations run smooth so you can focus on growth. Reach out to me at Denise@dcavirtual.com if you'd like to learn more.